Welcome to the Art of Conscious Living. I'm so very pleased today to have as my guest Billy Sunday Mars. He's written a book called Fit for Love, and I'm very, very interested in the subject from all my previous shows before, but this is coming from a male perspective, a very strong perspective. He's an incredible man that has an incredible history, and I'm so pleased to have him here today in the studio.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share and speak on this.
This is incredible work that you are doing and talking about. I'd like to start from the very beginning, right from the very beginning of where you, before you came across this idea of this book, Fit for Love. What were you like as a young man, and your journey of how did you discover this?
Well, especially going into the book itself, I talk about it in the early parts of the book. I was a quiet kid and fascinated. I had an older sister, 6 years older than me, and her girlfriends used to come over all the time, and I mean, you notice immediately they're different.
Yes.
And it's something that you look at and you say, I can just acknowledge that they're different, or I can find out more about why. And so I spent time talking with them and asking different questions, and found out different ways that I could entertain them and enjoy their way of being, and just be present with their essence. I wouldn't know the words back then, but that's what it was like. It was being able to be present, to feel and experience what it was like for them to be in my presence as a guy, you know, as a boy.
And in hindsight, looking back at that, when you say difference, what is the main difference that you saw between you being a man and women?
Energy, the way they moved. I played sports. I boxed and danced, and did different things, martial arts. And so I noticed there was a softness, and women move more like cats. Men, as I know it's comical, but men are more rough like dogs playing, but women stroll and they flow. And that was something that was always beautiful and alluring to me. I started doing art a lot because I wanted to draw and acknowledge and pay almost honor to that, reverence to that. So that was something that was important to me, even as a child. So learning to be aware of, especially being brought up in a home with a single parent. My mom raised me, my dad died when I was young, so I spent time watching women out of their strength, and her guiding me and causing me to ask a lot of questions, because instead of being reprimanded negatively or being just chastised for doing something wrong, she would say, why did you do that? And what did you think was going to happen? And so when I became familiar with these understandings, it's almost like a junior Byron Katie thing happening, you know,
yes.
The 4 questions. So I started looking into the feminine, or women, back then in the same way. Why do you do that? Why do you feel that? Why do you like that song instead of this song? Why do you wear that color? Why do you like those shoes? And I mean, they were maybe 18, so they were teenagers, and I was 12. You know, and then even younger than that, and so it caused me to really reflect on how I looked at myself in a mirror way of saying, okay, as a man, if I want to spend time and make or allow this person to be happy around me, if the woman or a girl at that time to be happy around me, what was it that I had to do to help them be happy? And you'd notice, because you'd say, the smile says it all. If I can make her smile, if I can make her laugh, if I can help her to be happy, there'll be more opportunity to spend time like that. And I think more men have to really look at that.
I think that's the time that you start to either see women, or possibly you could see them as an object. There's a saying that says, my trophy wife.
Yeah, yeah.
Or you could see them not as that. I think that's a time when all of this is being formed.
Right, right.
And one has to look into it. And it sounds to me, what you're saying is that you start looking at them as women, as energy, and as something different than most people were doing?
You begin to feel, and there's certain songs that I listened to as a kid, and certain melodies, and that women, generally men are visual, and women are audio. You know, they'll listen more to things. And I spent, aside from art, I spent most of my time listening to music and reading. So there was a lot more introspective understanding to say. I love later on when I was in China, they used to say, stop looking out, allow in. And it's a time when you look and you say, how am I feeling about how I'm seeing or experiencing this person across from me? And at a young age, I began really just learning to feel and allowing myself to feel, and not saying, oh, this is good or bad, but just, what is it that I'm feeling? And when you feel that energy, and you allow yourself to explore and experience that energy, you get to a place where you can say, there really isn't much separation unless we cause it. If you allow the energies to merge and to feel, rather than think, just to feel. And a lot of my work today is allowing and teaching people, or giving them the opportunity to feel. And I think that's something that we've lost. Just being able to feel another person and feel their energy. I mean, what happens if you're unable to see? Don't you have to go to that place where you're able to feel?
This is a lot of Tantra is based on feeling and acknowledging energy and exchanging of energy. When did you first come across, I know you mentioned martial arts, so obviously a natural, beautiful, complementary journey to go to Tantra. When did you first come across Tantra as a young man?
I had looked into a lot of different things. I was an exotic dancer for years.
No, you were?
Yes,
what does that mean, an exotic dancer? What?
There's a lot of different ways to look at it. I was
that?
performing. We didn't. The men didn't go down to anything other than a G-string. But there are different ways to go about performance. I mean, the typical performance is to dress up as a police officer or a fireman and to go into different things like that. Well, I was more into the theme and more into the art of it. So I looked towards what would it be like to create a scenario much like a Red Shoe Diaries. And I would use Sade or Seal or something from Sting or somebody that had a lot more depth, and go into creating instead of just doing the visual, which is what most men see, because instead of seeing it like a man would see it, to say, oh, I just want to see somebody take their clothes off. What goes beyond that? What type of feeling do you want to give the audience? What do you want to leave them with? What type of an impression do you want to leave them with? So I would say an exotic dancer is different from a stripper. A stripper peels away clothes. An exotic dancer looks to take someone on a journey.
And tells the story.
And tells a story.
Right. And shares that story with others.
And shares that.
It's an incredible high art.
Yes, and you're not
it's
there
a
for
lost
yourself.
art, actually.
Right, and you're not just there for yourself. You know very well that you're looking to evoke an emotion, a feeling from the people that come to see you. First of all, you're blessed and you're grateful that someone comes to see you. You have to take that into account first. You can't say, wow, look at me. More so, you want to say, I want you to look at yourself. I want you to look at what you're feeling and what you're experiencing and what you're taking away from what I may be doing on stage. And I would ask people, I would go into the audience and ask, how did you feel about what happened? And I had a notebook, and I took notes. And I asked questions.
That's very unusual.
Yes, I was kind of like Columbo. I didn't have the rumpled, wrinkled coat, but I had a robe, and I had a little notebook in the pocket of the robe, and I would ask questions. I wanted to know what I could do better, and I wanted to know in general what I as a man didn't know. Like, for instance, they're there with their girlfriends, and their husbands or boyfriends were home, and I would go, your husband or boyfriend is home. Why are you here? And they would tell me. They would say, I'm feeling this, or I'm looking for this, or he doesn't do this, and I would go, well, if he doesn't do this, that's probably a good indication that most guys, myself included, and where we can understand a little more. So it was a...
So there was a dialogue going on. You were...
Oh, yes.
You were back and forth. It was almost like you were a therapist in the audience with them.
Yeah, yeah. It was a beautiful... you would typically end up with tissues being used because people would say, can I really tell you about this? Can I really explain this? I'd like to be able to tell a man what I'm feeling. And I'm glad that you're asking, and it's here, and you're able to listen and hear me, because my husband doesn't hear me, or my boyfriend doesn't hear me, and he doesn't ask.
It sounds like it became a very sacred moment, something that was just basically could be looked on as just a dance. A performance became a moment of sacredness, where that they used that as a vehicle to really get in touch, and they really wanted to be heard and seen. Right. And the seeing part is basically, it's not really going around a lot. We seem to talk at each other, but we don't really connect, even with our most sacred beloved, even with our husbands in that union of bed, which takes us to Tantra now. How did you first come across Tantra?
I spent some time in Maui. I was teaching some classes over there, and I was fortunate enough to have some of the wonderful teachers come into the class to learn dance moves. Apparently the movements that I was doing, and I had learned some different Latin and Arabic dances, and I'd broken down the movements because being a trainer for years, I look at things from an inside perspective. So I broke down the moves and learned the small, I call them micro movements. And that's what I was teaching, and basically they came and said, those are the movements that we're trying to teach in our...
the pelvic thrust,
the pelvic
breathing.
Movements, right, the breathing and the pelvic rocking, and basically you rock the pelvic movement. That's the motion of the ocean. And what's unfortunate is many men learn from pornography and other things that the movement is a straightforward movement, and it's not. That because women, and this is almost comical, and I'm surprised most men haven't figured this out. Men have a T-square. They know the T-square. They go into Home Depot all the time. Women are not at 90 degrees. The way the woman is designed is at 45 degrees. And so rather than just moving and being unconscious about a movement that may not be doing anything for her, if they took the time to look, and a lot of men do, which is wonderful. Men read the book and they go, hey, this is great, you're explaining this, now I understand that where everything is for the woman that's going to do anything for her is at a different angle. And so I have this joke that I tell. That it's a cute joke. I say most men are a lot like a child with the blindfold on, swinging at a piñata, going, "How am I doing? Anything? Anything?" And this is what it is. It's an opportunity just to be a little bit more present and to realize that you have to help each other out. And this is what one of the things that's beautiful about Tantra is you can sit in Yabyum, which is the...
Well, let's break it down from the beginning. Yad Yam, for those who don't know, very simple basics. So from the very beginning, it's about connecting with your own energy.
It's all about connecting with energies.
It all starts right there. If you're not connected to your energy, basically nothing is going to be able to happen.
A lot of men I taught to dance and to work and to do this would go into clubs, and I'd say, "Why are you here?" And they would say, "I just want to see the girl dance." I go, "It's not the girl you're after, it's her energy. You're feeling her energy. We're all always looking beyond our physical, and it is physical as well, but the energy is what people are looking at." So Tantra is wonderfully first connecting the energies. You're aligning the chakras, and one of the most beautiful things that I've worked with people in class, and sometimes it brings both men and women to tears because they've been married for 20 years and don't realize they can be that close, is to have them, the woman sits across the man's lap. They usually sit with their legs crossed, or they can sit on a pillow, and you're looking to align the chakra points, which are the energy points, and you acknowledge what each point means. The root chakra, say, I admire the person that you are and how you are, etc., and how you support and become more yourself just by doing the things you do and how you are. And then you talk about the creative chakra, the second chakra, your sexual energy, and you acknowledge how wonderful you express that energy, and you go to the power chakra and then the heart chakra. And especially by the time people are at the heart chakra, most of the time they're in this wonderful space where they're not aware of anything else in the room. And this is happening in a place where they're completely clothed, acknowledging one another, and yet the world around them disappears. Imagine what happens when they're able to do that in an intimate setting.
Yes. And what supports that to happen? It's the vehicle of the breath.
The breath.
And connecting with that deep, deep quality, a certain kind of quality of breathing.
The breathing...
and as a dancer, you must have been very aware of your breathing all the time.
You're always aware of your breathing. And when you dance or when you sing, you have to be aware of where that's coming from. And in Tantra, it's almost easier to talk about it in the Taoist term at times, the microcosmic orbit that Marin County talks about.
Yes.
And this is beautiful to say, she breathes out, he breathes in, her exhale. He exhales and she breathes in, his exhale, and the energy flows and the breath goes up and down each other's spine in a circular motion. So he's inhaling, her exhale, it comes into his body, goes around and comes back out, and vice versa, and his exhale goes into her, she inhales that, and it goes around, and it's sharing at a very, very deep level. And I love this beautiful saying when people say, what is God? Well, God is the breath between the breaths. So each time they're doing that, the source of life is flowing through them. And the source of life is, of course, the source of love, so they're able to experience that together. So Tantra allows people to acknowledge and be very aware of life at its most essential point, at its very essence. I sometimes, with it being called the microcosmic orbit, it's like at a place where you're aware of the most subtle, minute aspects of yourself and the other person, so far beyond the physical structure of the body, so far beyond the thought that this is, even beyond that you lose the thought of being woman and man. Because within every woman there's a man, and within every man there's a female. Mm-hmm. There's a woman, and these are our opposite, our soul.
It's just connecting to pure energy.
And you're connecting pure energy,
yes.
Soul to soul. And the body is then really just the vehicle. It's just the vehicle through which you express. Like a flute.
It sounds to me and feels to me as you're speaking that this is the most natural, real, original way of being. And somehow in society we have been removed from our naturalness of the way it really should be. This is not something extra or something extraordinary or something.
Right.
This what they say is having the ordinary made into extraordinary. I mean, I think that this is just something that's
the extraordinary has to be made ordinary.
Exactly.
And when the extraordinary is made ordinary for everybody, it's not something that should be. Even the most spiritual texts, even the deepest understandings that any one of the masters have spoken about, has to, if we are going to do well on this planet, has to become ordinary. It has to become common understanding and common knowledge. And oftentimes people are afraid of going to that place because people have fought wars over it.
Yes.
And so people think, well, religion causes wars, and I love Joseph Campbell's understanding. Religion means again, ligi, like the ligament in your knee, which attaches. It just means reattach to your source.
Yes.
We put names on it.
Yes.
And so we put names on even reattaching within ourselves. Yoga means to yoke, and originally it meant the Brahman to the soul self, the Atman. And then as it became Americanized, it just became, well, the body to the spirit. What about the Godhead or the Goddess to the soul self through the body and the spirit? And that's one of the things that I talk about. Invite the divine into the bedroom.
Yes.
Invite that energy into the bedroom. Make that one of the first things you do. The consciousness of having that be a cohesive aspect of how men and women unite. That first, the consciousness that allows you to be present for each other, not only just to know what to do, but more important, why.
The intention.
The intention.
Very strong.
The intention.
Very powerful. Let's take it a little bit further. Miracles, what we consider miracles today. I don't really think they're miracles.
No,
I think it's
no.
an ordinary way of being. But we want to see it as something extra, something extraordinary. We want to not take responsibility. When we take 100% responsibility, we're breathing into our potency of ourself on the fullest level. It no longer is a miracle. It's just what is, and
Yes.
and how extraordinarily ordinary and how beautiful it is, how natural it is.
Have you ever heard the saying, there are no miracles outside of nature, just outside of our understanding of nature?
Wonderful. How beautiful. It's very powerful.
So Carolyn Mace, I believe, used to say that miracles happen around us all the time if we pay attention. There's never a time when there's not a miracle happening, because the ordinary is the extraordinary. And when we're capable of being in a place beautifully, have you ever fallen asleep with the radio or the TV on and noticed that when you wake up, it suddenly seems a lot louder? The reason for that, obviously, you didn't turn it up in your sleep. You became quiet. The more quiet we become, the more life is amplified.
The more acute your senses
and
become.
the more acute our senses are.
Yeah.
And this is why it's so important. And when people, comically, they look at these raucousing, I don't even know if that's a word, people doing their intimate things on TV with all that stuff, they're missing the ability to actually sense and feel more. It's like that old Shakespeare saying, I think it was, life is a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury signifying nothing. The more noise they're making, the less they're actually able to work with the inner points. And that's one of the things that Tantra teaches you, is to calm down, to become more aware, to become acutely aware of your partner's breathing, to become acutely aware of the sensing of whether or not the pulse is rising, because that's how you know what's happening. That's how you know.
Right. Your book, Fit for Love. Tell me, let's go over it and break it down, basically what the reader will find in here. I know we have beautiful photographs and illustrations in here, and it's basically showing a lot of positions and body movement, and it's all about getting this energy of moving in the body.
Yes.
It's beautifully, of all the books I've ever come across, it's so beautifully illustrated. And for those who are visual, I'm sure they're going to really appreciate this.
Yes, I tried to balance it out, because a lot of times, and this is one of the wonderful things that the Tantra instructors helped me out with, Joan and Tomas, Sasha and Janet, Carla was Carla Tarantola, she wonderful. They explained a lot of beautiful aspects of these understandings to me, and I was able to take them with the background I had in training and basically create a micro movement to express what they were saying. And so I took experiences from even learning belly dance. And again, you mentioned martial arts. Martial arts, people think that you kick with your legs, you move with your hips, you kick with your hips. And all the movements come with the hips, and all the energy comes from, in Chinese they call it the dantian. In Japanese they call it the hara. And they call it svatasthana. And in the Tantric understanding and the Hindu understanding.
And in English,
they would just say it's your libidinal energy, from where the woman's ovaries are there, the male prostate. In fact, they're opposite. The male prostate and the female G-spot is actually, comically so, not to disturb any biblical understandings, but all men start out their lives as women, and the prostate becomes the prostate from what we know as, I believe, the G-spot. So the energy here, which is the second chakra area, which is where our hormones come from, that sustain us and keep us alive, and I talk about this in the book, where we have wonderful opportunities to learn anti-aging just from having better intimacy and releasing. That's what the orgasm actually does. It releases these hormones into the body. More so if you prolong the stages of the orgasmic process, what the tantrics call, now they call it riding the wave.
Right, and that's for men where they do not have ejaculation.
Right,
they
and
have an
women as well.
orgasm. Women as well.
You release a wonderful chemical called DHEA that
Okay.
keeps you alive longer.
So let's speak a little further. It's the first time I've heard that. Are you saying women should not release their orgasm?
You want to progress and prolong
Build it.
and perpetuate on both accounts.
Right. Build it as much as possible.
It's like when you get an orange, especially with the price of oranges today, you get a good, nice organic orange, no one just squeezes the orange. You keep working with the orange, you try to get all the juice out of it, the juiciness out of that orange. And that's going to release not only the hormones, but the neurochemicals which keep us happy. Dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, which keeps us closer. John Gray, wonderful speaking on oxytocin. Even with non-sexual touch, this is why it's so important for a woman to be, for a man to spend time with her, to maybe do massage or to do, the tantric aspect is beautiful because that's spending the time to release those neurochemicals, oxytocin and serotonin, to a degree, to calm her down, to relax, because a woman can't have an orgasm without having her amygdala relaxed. If that's firing, she's wired to care what's happening in the house all the time. So the man has to take the time, and this is what the Tantra did years ago. Obviously the times are different, but it was to help relax the woman, to give her a sense of trust, and to be able to invite the man into her space. Because the yoni means sacred space, and back then a man had to be reverent of her before he even thought of being intimate with her. One of the things that I talk about is that women, men enter the world through women from the divine, and a man can return to the divine through the woman. The first is a physical entering of the world through a woman from the divine. The spiritual returning to the divine through the woman happens through intimacy. This is why the man has to pay such close attention to how he looks at her, because she is the beautiful vessel of the divine. That's the portal through which life comes to the planet. No one, I love the saying, Jesus spoke about it years ago, no one gets to the Father but through me. No one gets to the planet but through a woman. So how much more do we need to pay attention to this and give reverence to women as a man, that she allows us to share in that experience. And both people, the purpose of intimacy is to take each other back to the divine. We're literally lifted out of a body. That's what an orgasm does. And so this is the opportunity for people learning about Tantra and learning about Taoist practices to realize that the subtle states don't mean that you're not virile and sexy and wild and all these other things. It means that you've learned to harness it and bring it into a focus and make more use of the energy and build the energy. It shows that you have more awareness of it and you're able to do something more with it than just expend it and it's over. And it's like falling asleep in a movie theater. You don't even know that you were there.
Right. We spoke about the male and the male not having a ejaculation and the microcosm of keeping all his sexual energy and building it and having an internal orgasm. I'm sure there's many viewers who find this quite fascinating, and that's a whole turnaround of the way that they've thought sex is all about. you've experienced that, you know
Yeah.
about that. So how long does it take, given loosely, of how to master that? And what is the experience of that? And what does that actually feel like? Because the society is all about orgasm, orgasm, orgasm. And now we're saying no orgasm, keeping the ejaculation, allowing it to flow back into the body, and keeping that protein all the time, not losing your energy. So let's speak
that's
from your
beautiful.
male point of view,
That's
and as
beautiful.
a teacher, what's that like?
And it can go. This is a beautiful subject, because we typically don't go into what an orgasm is and what it does and how we can actually create them. For the male, for a man, it's more. They say it's a marathon, not a sprint. And learning to be aware of where he is also. He has to learn to be aware of where he is. And he wants to learn to work with his partner. This is why they're partners. And they're working with each other. They're not just racing towards the finish. They're enjoying the scenery along the way. They're enjoying everything that happens. It's a journey that they're taking together. And they're learning to feel for where each other is in their process. They talk about the arousal stage, the plateau, the orgasm, and then the refractory period. The two middle stages, even playing with the arousal period, the foreplay, and building that up and building the energy. That is a wonderful place to be, to especially you're either doing massage and you're doing other things together to bring each other into a place, especially for a woman. A man's like a microwave. A woman is more like a fine oven that has to be warmed up first.
Good analogy.
You know? And you can't just throw something in an oven and expect to cook. Nothing happens, you know. So it's taking the time to give her the opportunity to warm up. Now, once she's there, and not until then, if the man is ready to enter, he has to think of it more as, again, the journey of feeling her. And when the lingam or the vajra is inside the yoni, the penis inside the vagina, if you will, there's energies that go back and forth, and they want to feel that. It's so important for them to feel and just stop. Even if it's important to eye gaze, to look at each other, and not just say, how much time do we have before we have to be to the next place? The next place is the next place within each other. It's almost like going on stops on a train across country in Europe in the olden days. You enjoyed every aspect of it. You enjoyed the flowers on the table. You enjoyed the countryside. You enjoyed the valleys. You enjoyed the rivers. You enjoyed the mountains. You're seeing all this along the way, and that getting into that place where you're able to be with each other and move slowly, more deliberate. And this is one of the things that I took about teaching the micro movements. They're smaller hip rocking movements. I talk about being able to move vertically, horizontally, and laterally, according to what position her spots are inside that, and the man has to find that out. He has to find out where her G-spot is. He has to find out where the other spots are, and there are more than just the G-spot. And typically what happens is people pay attention only with a woman to the external, and the external stimulation isn't capable of causing as powerful, just like with a male. Until his prostate is involved, the external orgasm for him isn't nearly as powerful, and it doesn't release as powerful the chemical release that gives them that feeling of well-being, that allows them to feel, as we would say, good. And I love the saying, the difference between good and God is zero.
Yes.
So that's what Tantra teaches, to get to that place.
There's techniques.
Yes.
To be able to rely on, that you will be, the male will be able to do.
Right.
And the female's doing, and they can do together and share these techniques.
Yes, and
together.
to know each other's points, to know themselves, and to know their partner's points, and to know where their partner is in each stage, because you're looking not to just have the orgasm, rather to, I call it allowing the orgasm to mature. Mm-hmm. When it matures, it's sweet. And the reason why sometimes people don't feel fulfilled after sex, even if they do have an orgasm, is because they've had an unripened orgasm, so it's still bitter.
So they were disconnected.
They were disconnected.
From themselves, they were disconnected from the partner, they were disconnected from the energy source.
And if they need the cigarette afterwards, contrary to popular belief, that means they're still looking for the chemicals that were supposed to be released had they allowed the orgasm to mature. So this is a deeper aspect of it that we don't usually get to talk about. It's some of my students and I, when we talk about this, we call it the different conversation, because there's a place that people are allowed to get to that can only be talked about if people have been there. And a lot of the magazines nowadays, they have all these things. Turn this person on, get them to have the best, and I look and go, oh boy, here we go again. Because you can tell when someone's experienced the real, the more expanded orgasm. It's not a, wow, I felt it. It's because they go back to that place. That place is recreated subconsciously. And they go back, and that's another area of being in the subconscious and the subliminal self and the libidinal self, and having those two places meet, the deeper selves rather than our surface. Even our conscious energy is surface energy.
And breath will facilitate that.
Breath facilitates that because you go into belly breathing
Yes.
and energy, and you want that energy to move, and you want to allow yourself to be in your body. Spirituality and religion have become a more of a conscious endeavor rather than a complete endeavor. And we're more like cut flowers nowadays than we are rooted in the body and having that energy rooted in our bodies. We have to learn to, a lot of times people come to my classes and say, I'm here because I want to get back in my body. They've studied Buddhism, they've studied Zen, they've studied Taoism, they've studied a lot of different things, and they get to a place where some people say, I've been woo-wooed rather than wooed. And I say, well, that's fine. We're all human. It happens, and we can't judge. We're here to improve rather than prove, or to judge. We want to assess and look into this and bring ourselves back in. And you have to be able to be happy and fine with where you are.
It sounds like it's like a grounding.
Yes.
When you say wooed, and they're very analytical of being spiritual, but they seem to be living more in their head and in the analytical part, instead of in the nowness of the feeling part of
the heart, where the Sufis say, where Rumi and Hafiz, if you read the great Sufi poets, and you listen to what they're saying, they may somewhat go up here, but they always bring you back in, and Hafiz will always say, Hafiz, could it be? And he wants you to realize that he's coming back to himself, going, I've been out here, but now I'm the dreg drinker, in the places of the dregs of where the wine is, the sedentary part, the sediments of the wine, sediments are now being brought up and brought back through. And we have to get into this core place. This is where the blues lies. When someone sings the blues, they're singing it from here. When someone dances flamenco, as Lorca said, the duende, they're bringing from here. And this is the coal. The coal without which you can't have the diamond. All diamonds start off as coal, so when they talk about the diamond heart and the diamond mind. Okay, that was my Captain Jack Sparrow there for a moment. The diamond mind from the coal. Without the coal you can't have the diamond, and we've cut this part off and expected to have the diamond, and we're lighter, but not enlightened. Because we have to enlighten the dark places, where I call it the angel acknowledging the animal self, and then uniting the lamb and the lion, as Jesus would put it.
Now, we're in the information age now. What would that mean to you of enlightenment? As everything changes, certainly there has to be a new understanding of enlightenment. And I know that I'm hearing a lot, like Diksha and different things are going on. It's more faster, it's more accessible, it's more...
The information is.
Yes. Where before there was a long process that it was giving over to a master, and you sat and through transmission, and it was, those days are perhaps of that period of time where it's different. There's
Yes.
there's different gurus who have come back and know that they were reincarnated from that time when they were in.
Well, it's the spirit, it's the energy. The
Yes.
physical body just takes on that energy.
Yes.
The energy comes in whatever
So there's
form.
more of a quickening. So
Right,
what
the
would you
quickening.
say to that in your own personal life and to others?
We always grow. I say to everybody, be a lifelong learner.
And enlightenment would mean what to you?
And enlightenment would be, in my feeling of it, because we can think it, but that really won't help. We
Right.
want to embody and embrace
The
it.
feeling of it is?
It would be to be able to add that light to our dark areas of ourself, to bring consciousness to the animal self, to not deny the animal self or avoid it, but to allow the animal self, as they used to say, the Buddha rides the elephant, or Jesus riding the donkey into Jerusalem, the parallel. People don't often see that.
And what would that mean, Jesus riding the donkey, the parallel?
He was saying, say the Buddha rides the elephant rather than the elephant riding the Buddha. If the elephant rides the Buddha, that means the physical body is ruling the spiritual, the higher being. But if the elephant is ridden by the Buddha, that means the higher consciousness is now in I don't want to call it control, but managing the animal self. To have it, if the animal gets out of line, the elephant can destroy a village. But if it's guided with higher consciousness, it can now build a village. The donkey, if it gets out of line, it kicks and does its thing. But if Jesus is in, and that's what he was basically saying, was, I'm riding this, what's considered the lowest form of animal, to show how this can take me to where I need to be. And the physical body that he eventually gave up. Remember the saying that if you see the Buddha outside yourself, they say, kill the Buddha. This is one of the reasons why Jesus was saying, I'm throwing off the physical body, because if I'm in front of you, you can't learn anymore. So we're not so much trying to get rid of the physical body, that was an extreme example of it, but to harness the energies of the physical body and allow the consciousness to guide. Let your consciousness, more so than just the conscience, but the consciousness be the guide of the physical body. And then, especially intimately, then it can guide that otherwise blind love to the highest possible places imagined. Because these are places that all of us, again, the extraordinary becoming the ordinary, all of us are capable of feeling. There's not a person walking this planet who isn't capable and isn't given that right to experience the divine within them and that release, because basically an orgasm is we're released from the physical body and we're inhabited. This is why it's such a draw for people to want to get there as quickly as possible. They want to be released from the strains of the day, from the stresses of the day, from the left brain saying you have to do this, you have to do that, you're not good enough, you're not this. And this is why people do the drugs, they do all the things, because they're trying to get to that place. And that's what we were given this opportunity through the orgasm to be able to be brought to those places.
Right, instead of seeing it as a void that you're trying to fill, you're basically celebrating your natural state of being.
Right.
And I so much hear and feel as you're speaking, it's all about energy. It's all about deep, deep presence and connection, which very, very few people are knowing about. And this is something that is natural, and this is our natural way of being. So it's moving back to our naturalness, moving back to basics. And it's so effortless and so simple.
So enlightenment would be to know, again, our deepest self and be able to be aware of our deepest self. And I'm not talking about up here. I'm talking about in your body. And whether that makes you completely silent, which often it does, it brings you to a place where you're in awe, you're humbled, you're in complete silence. Or, as the Chinese call it, the ku qi de xing li, which means a soul cry. It makes you scream out because you say, I finally felt this. And it may bring you to a place where you cry. You could laugh.
And that felt, what is that?
That's the power of this energy that's been stifled, that's been repressed and suppressed. Yes, oppressed. I think that even would say, would be a good way to say it. Compacted in, and suddenly it's released. Often women, I talk about women holding a lot of trauma in their hips, and often women will cry during intimate moments, and if they have if they're able to be brought to orgasm and cared for and nurtured, and have that, because you can't pick a flower by pulling at the petals. You have to nurture. It's literally each orgasm is nurtured and grown like a flower. It's blossom. It's a blossoming of the female energy. When this energy is brought out, that is something that is allowing life not just to be procreated, which is often what people think of as a woman, as something that creates babies. Intimacy is an opportunity for her to recreate herself and the man. And so that being born, that cry out of being born, moment by moment, rather than just having it be an isolated event that happens at the beginning of your life, that's what I'm talking about. It's getting to the point where you're able to feel that and experience that and explore the constant rebirth, as the Sufis say, dying before you die so you can be born again, dying again, born again, dying again, born again, and becoming new all the time.
It seems to me that this would be much more easier to do than a lot of men think. What do I do? How do I do it? What do I do to fix her up? How do I take care of her? It's really none of that. That manual has to be thrown out.
Yeah, it's not a Chilton's. They used to have the Chilton's manual,
right,
to fix your car, the car Bible. It's not a manual.
Yeah, throw it out and start to approach it as it's basically witnessing.
Yes.
Being there with your beloved, your female partner, and see her as an energy and connect to your energy. So it's basically getting back to basic, simple fundamentals. There's no I have to do, or I shouldn't do, or I must do, or I do it like this, or I do it like that. No.
If you watch, it's comical, if you watch, she'll tell you. She moves certain ways, she'll do certain things. If you let her be in her essence, you want her to be completely in her, and allow her to be in her feminine. If you allow a woman to be in her feminine as a man, she relaxes in, and you'll watch her move into that place where she'll writhe, she'll move in certain ways. That energy it'll start saying, help me move this, help me feel this. God's trying to come through me. The divine, the female, the goddess energy is trying to come out, wants to visit this realm, wants to be in this world. Help me. Help me give birth to that. So what a man has to do is pay attention. What I talk about in the books, okay, these are the spots. They're nerve endings in both male and female, and typically people don't realize that, except for the vagus nerve, that they're nerve endings that we're working with. And this is what's explained in the book. And what you're doing is using and working with those nerve endings, much like you play a piano.
Yeah, it's like opening a doorway,
and you're opening a doorway, and you're playing music, and you're trying to have, you're looking to have an orchestration, you're looking to have a concerto, you're looking to do Vivaldi, and you're looking to do the Haydn, you're looking to play the symphony, you're looking to have that as an opportunity. And the music, a great improvisational musician will come in and just listen. What notes are they playing? What key am I in? That's her emotions. You play what emotion she's in, and you work with where she's at. You say, a great musician can walk in with anybody playing and say, okay, they're in this key, they're in this tempo, and you fill in. And then from there, if you want to do more with it, if you want to augment it, sometimes you augment it, sometimes you bring it back down. It's like if you cook, you walk into the kitchen, you say, okay, what are we cooking? Okay, we have this. What type of spices? What are we looking for? What type of herbs are we looking for? What wine goes with this? And you complement. And a moment ago you mentioned communication. And I like to think of getting beyond communication to communion, where you don't need words. Because there was a time when we were, as human beings, able to communicate at a much deeper level without the words. If you can just read someone's eyes, if you can watch their body language, if you can even watch the rise and fall of somebody's chest and their breathing, or if they are able to breathe through the abdominal breathing, that can tell a man where she is in her process, how aroused she is, and just different signs of the body expressing. It shows. The lips, the eyes, the breasts, everything shows, everything tells a story of where things are, where she is in her process. And if men can pay attention to other signs around the house, fixing their car, did automotive mechanics for years, the red light goes on in the dashboard, do something. Well, those are the same signs we're looking at. There's a sign. And it's about witnessing. If you pay attention as a man, you almost don't have to know anything. I can give hints, much like the teachers did. They can point a direction, but people have to walk that path. And being with each other in a Tantric or Taoist or good old American way, there's nothing wrong with that. All of it is just names, just ways of expressing, the fingers pointing to the moon. If it has to be wild and you have to swing from chandeliers, great. Ultimately, it still has to come down to that soft point. You can do all the wild stuff and the circumference and do the mating thing like peacocks and animals in the wild, but you still have to come back to what only we are capable of doing by consciously guiding that animal self to that close, small, very aware place. And that's what we're looking to do.
And it becomes effortless and a celebration.
Yes.
It's a dance, a celebration together.
Yeah,
Beautiful
like
union.
a dance, the tango.
Yes.
Tango. It's moving and feeling each other and moving and feeling that center. Tango is wonderful. It's based on feeling the center and moving off a center. And that's what happens. You begin to realize you're moving off a centered point. All the other body parts that are moving don't matter unless they move from the center. It's like with music. You find that center note and you agree on that center note. You agree on that root note. And that's one thing that people need to do, especially be able to identify what area you're working on together within the woman to help that release take place and to build up. And once you say, yes, she says, yes, I'm feeling there. And it's fine for a man to ask, but he'll see. Once he realizes where she's feeling, you stay there. And you work with that area together. And you're invoking the divine, you're inviting the divine to come, enter into the space. You've already invited the aura to be external, but now you're inviting it directly through her to enter. And that's what the male energy, because the male energy is usually the yang energy pushing in. Now it's drawing out rather than the opposite.
In closing, I'd like to open up a subject that is very vast, but it's a subject of love. There's been many books written about what love is not. I'd like to talk to you about what love is, and from your essence and your understanding of what love is.
Love, and
in relationship to
everything.
Tantra and your partner, and Fit for Love and your book and your how you live your life and all of it and who you are. What's your understanding of what love is?
Love is bringing or allowing or helping the person, a friend, or the wife, the girlfriend, the husband, the boyfriend for the woman, to bring them to their highest self, to get to their highest self, to create the balance within them that brings them to their highest self. The spiritual partnership is something that Gary Zukav talks about with Linda Francis and John Gray's understanding hormones, to understand where someone is hormonally and understand where they are. You want to be able to understand them so that you can bring them to the highest self. God is love, love is God. It's been said, the divine in that sense. To bring them to the highest point where they're able to experience that within themselves, even independent of us. It's got to go beyond us. They may get upset at you because you're saying you're not being your highest self, or you're not in your highest integrity, you're not being authentic, even if that means that they have to yell at you and get upset at you and storm off. Fine. You love them, and loving them and having them love themselves is more important than them liking you. And if you love something, like say you love your plant, you say, everybody says, I love my plant. If you give it too much water, now it turns yellow. If you don't give it enough water, it turns brown. So to love and to share love, to serve in having that other person be able to reach their highest self is what love is to me. And it's allowing them to feel their divine self and experience that divine self. Wholly, or to become whole, means to be healed. And it's allowing them to heal and become their whole self. All 7 chakras vibrant, lighting up, all aspects of themselves lighting up, so that joy is an uncaused state, happiness is an uncaused state. I made a mention a little while ago that if someone can hurt another person, that actually it's not that they should be upset, but to be thankful, because what they're saying is they've pointed out a spot where there's healing that needs to be done, where they haven't fully allowed that divine self to be brought to its highest point, because the ego is the only thing that can be hurt. And if they're fully present within themselves and they're fully healed and they feel fully loved, and again those spots that are unloved, when they fully add love to all those places and all those places within themselves, they're no longer hurt. So that's what love means. It's allowing somebody to be their highest self, and you get to enjoy that and share that and watch them bloom and to be part of that, to witness that. That's what love is.
And that's completely the opposite of having a person to give you that. You're facilitating that for the other person instead of trying to get that from the other person. So it's a whole different turnaround of thinking.
You're looking to become love. You can only give what you have. So you're looking to become love itself. You want to be the full cup so that it spills over. The cup runneth over with love. You want to be that full cup so that you're not trying to take from another person. You're not trying to take from, it's like 2 batteries. If a battery's not charged, you put another battery on it, it draws it. You want to be the battery that's so full of energy, of love, that whoever you come in contact with, the checkout person at the grocery store that feels like no one cares about that person, you want that when they're in your presence, that they feel great about themselves. We are how we make other people feel about themselves. You want to be great? Make other people feel great.
Well, on that note, Billy, it's been an absolute pleasure, a divine honor to sit and speak with you, and I very much in the future, very near future, like to do part 2 with you.
Yes,
we've just
thank you for that.
Tapped on to the very, very little of you have so much more there. And I think your book should be in the school system, quite truly. I think that there should be a time where they're looking at your book and in high school, for instance, or in the college level, and they should be looking at that.
It's playful. I often joke with people that the problem isn't unprotected sex so much as it's unproductive sex. We know we need protection. We have to be protected. We have to do all that stuff. But if it works more, people will take their time with it because they don't know what they're looking for.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for allowing me to share. I appreciate it.